Welcome to a special presentation of Notsam Wrestling. I'm Sam Roberts, and today I have something a little different, something that I think you're going to like, something that I think you'll think is pretty cool. You all know, if you've been following this show, that the minute those words came out of The Rock's mouth, I knew that we had stumbled onto something different. I fell in love with whatever this new character was becoming, a character that would become the final boss. And make no mistake about it, the final boss came in like a whirlwind. I mean, it picked up steam and would not let up until WrestleMania, and technically the Raw after WrestleMania. So now that we've finally had a chance to take a breath, now that there is that beat for us to think about what we just saw, I thought there was no time like the present to really analyze what I think will go down as chapter 1 of the final boss. So it starts on January 1st when WWE put on a television special called Raw Day 1. And they acknowledged internet rumors when Triple H tweeted that he wasn't going to, quote, confirm or deny the rumors of a former WWE champion appearing at Raw Day 1, but I will say to stay tuned. He did this in the days leading up to the show. Once we finally got to Day 1 Raw, it was announced by commentary that a former champion would be appearing. And when the time came and as viewers we were told to stay through the break, the music played and that champion was revealed to be Jinder Mahal. Jinder came to the ring as the audience was shown to be visibly disappointed. He was booed as he talked about the disrespect that he was being treated with and the problems with Americans in general today. At that point, boom, the music of the superstar that fans were hoping for, The Rock, interrupted Jinder Mahal. And the most electrifying superstar in all of sports and entertainment made his appearance known. The Rock came to the ring and he ripped down the modern-day Maharaja, verbally then physically, taking a few blows himself before dropping Jinder and laying him out with a people's elbow. We all thought that was enough, but once The Rock had cleared the ring, he said he was off to get something to eat. And he asked the crowd if he should sit at a booth, sit at the bar, or sit at the head of the table. We didn't know where he was going at first, but once he hit that head of the table, a huge ovation rang through San Diego as the reference was lost on no one. The Rock had made appearances on the Pat McAfee Show and College Game Day a couple of months earlier, talking about an initial plan to do a Rock-Roman match at WrestleMania 39, and while it had fallen through, Rock said that it wasn't off the table. Between that and the clear shot at Day 1, fans, myself included, started fantasy booking immediately. I mean, The Rock has said this since, but it's true. Ever since Roman Reigns became the head of the table, ever since he started talking about the bloodline, ever since he started talking about being the family member in that Samoan dynasty who brings home the bacon better than anybody else, questions about The Rock started surfacing. People wanted Rock and Roman at WrestleMania 38. People wanted Rock and Roman at WrestleMania 39. Rock versus Roman Reigns was at least the biggest super fight since Hulk Hogan and The Rock. It was this impossibility that was kind of a possibility because The Rock had stayed in shape forever. And Roman Reigns had ascended to this space where it made sense. We weren't in Philadelphia in 2015 anymore, where the fans were booing Roman Reigns and The Rock was looking confused. We weren't in this space where Roman Reigns was being shoved down our throats and we were rejecting him. Roman Reigns had already revolutionized the industry. Roman Reigns was already telling stories in a way that some would argue has not been done in years. I would argue had never been done. Cinema was the word of the day. And now the possibility of The Rock coming in as the tribal chief was at his peak was almost too much to take. But what about the story? You know the story. Cody Rhodes had been on a mission to get back to the place where he had lost everything. Cody only ever wanted to win the title his father never did, the WWE Championship. And Roman Reigns was the unconquerable foe who held it. After losing at WrestleMania 39, Cody Rhodes had done the impossible and maintained and also grew support from the fans as the year progressed. Only weeks after The Rock's Day 1 appearance, Cody Rhodes went to the Royal Rumble, won the match, and not only pointed to the WrestleMania sign, but pointed directly at the suite that Roman Reigns was sitting in to observe the match. As Roman reacted, it was clear who Cody Rhodes' choice was. The theatrics of the Royal Rumble reminded fans of the 2-year investment that they had made in Cody Rhodes and the potential for Cody Rhodes to be the one who could finally beat Roman Reigns and finish the story. Things, however, got a little confusing as CM Punk was injured in the Royal Rumble match and paths started becoming even less clear. The night after the Rumble on Raw, Seth Rollins made a plea to Cody Rhodes to choose him to be the champion that Cody challenged at WrestleMania, as Seth needed to know that he was the best, and in order to do that, he had to beat Cody Rhodes. But Cody was going to pick Roman, right? Well, then came SmackDown. Roman Reigns came to the ring with the bloodline. The first thing that he did was, almost to an unreasonable extent, verbally rip Seth Rollins to shreds. Then he stated that Cody would be an idiot not to choose Roman Reigns as his WrestleMania opponent. That's when Cody came out and he explained that Roman's title was the title that he wanted. And his plan was not only to take that title, but to take everything from Roman Reigns. However, he would not do it at WrestleMania. Cue The Rock's music. Cody said he had taken advice from, among others, The Rock. The Rock came to the ring as a surprise to everyone in attendance. He whispered something into Cody's ear, and Cody voluntarily, but somewhat sullenly, left the ring as Roman Reigns and The Rock stared each other down. The crowd in the arena went absolutely ballistic, even chanting, "This is awesome," as not only were they treated to a surprise appearance from The Rock, but a clash of true icons was headed to WrestleMania, and they had witnessed the foundation being laid. That crowd, however, was apparently not representative of the fan base at large. See, something happened between the beginning of January and the end of January, and that something was the moment that Cody Rhodes had won the Royal Rumble. We realized that this was the match. We went back to a few months before when Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes had that face down on SmackDown and made us all go, whoa, there is magic here. It brought everybody to a year before at the end of WrestleMania 39 when Cody Rhodes got pinned and the air was let out of the room. You can't overstate how big of a disappointment it was to a huge portion of the fan base. Nobody thought Cody Rhodes was going to lose to Roman Reigns, and Cody Rhodes had lost to Roman Reigns. The fact that the fans had stayed with this guy was only reminded to us when that feeling swept over everyone's body. When Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble and we went, oh yeah, even with all the excitement of The Rock, this is what was supposed to happen. Add to that the fact that not long before this, a week, maybe 2 weeks before this SmackDown appearance, news had broken that not only was WWE going to Netflix in 2025 for a multi-billion-dollar deal, but The Rock had joined the board of directors at TKO, the parent company of WWE. He had been awarded tens of millions of dollars in stock, and he had been awarded all of his IP, all the trademarks, The Rock, Jabroni Drive, SmackDown Hotel, all of it was given to The Rock. He was now the owner of it, which was unprecedented from a WWE point of view. So fans looked at this, and instead of being in the mindset that everybody was in on January 1st, when we said, oh, we're going to get to see this super match, it was, well, The Rock must have had this as part of his deal with TKO. The Rock must have said, I want my trademarks, I want my money, and I want the main event of WrestleMania. There was this feeling that so many in the fan base had that The Rock had politicked his way into the main event of WrestleMania and that he had screwed over the superstar that fans had devoted 2 years of their life to, Cody Rhodes. Technically, yes, this match was what fans wanted, but they wanted it from a macro perspective. It didn't make sense in this micro perspective. 6 days after that episode of SmackDown, during Super Bowl week, WWE put on an arena-sized press event that promised the first face-off between The Rock and Roman Reigns. Although the WrestleMania match had not been officially announced, the implications were clear. And those implications led to 6 days of the internet absolutely flaming this decision. The YouTube video, the segment on SmackDown, became the most disliked the WWE's YouTube channel had ever had. WWE, The Rock, or anyone associated could not move on social media without comments of dismay, disapproval, disgust, and disappointment flooding every post. The fans in huge numbers did not like the idea of Cody's main event being taken away for no clear reason other than their perceived reason, which was The Rock was back and he had recently become a member of TKO's board of directors. Then Las Vegas happened. Before the press conference, The Rock went on Pat McAfee's show and not only addressed the backlash, but surprisingly faced it head on. He introduced the Cody Crybabies, a group of fans that as adult men were ignoring their children and the sexual needs of their wives. He said the Cody Crybabies were shoving chicken nuggets into their orifices and needed to shut up and go along for the ride. It was an amazing return. In an instant, we remembered what The Rock was capable of, what brought him to the dance, why we fell in love with this character. And it was only the beginning. Once we got to the press conference, the big press event, the WrestleMania kickoff show, an arena full of people were on the same page as all the fans on the internet. There was a big picture of Roman Reigns on one side of the stage, a big picture of The Rock on the other side of the stage. And that's the moment that The Rock came in. And instead of having this sort of competitive nature with Roman Reigns, instead of being in this position where it was like, boy, I'm going to teach you a lesson, it was more of a cooperative presentation about why the Anoa'i Maivia Samoan dynasty is the greatest thing to ever happen to professional wrestling. And part of that was the moment The Rock came out and he said, I've got something that you're going to think is pretty cool. And even if you don't like it, you're going to have to respect it. It was this really subtle way of presenting his own family tree. If I presented the Roberts family tree, I would probably have a little bit of modesty, you know. Oh, I don't know if you'll care, but here it is. That's not what The Rock had. The Rock presented his family tree as if it was a gift to the wrestling public at large. You guys aren't going to believe this. This is the best thing since sliced bread. You're going to think it's pretty cool. And if you don't think it's pretty cool, you better think it's pretty cool. The Rock was slipping into this mode where he was taking charge. We were so used to seeing nice guy Dwayne Johnson. We were so used to seeing the Hollywood actor who knew how to be extremely charming at press junkets, always smiled, always had something clever to say, the guy that we always wanted to hang out with. But that's not how you get to the top. All of a sudden, we were seeing this guy who said, no, I'm taking charge. This is my show. And Roman was kind of there with him. If you were really reading into it, it felt like The Rock and Roman Reigns had this plan where their match would be sort of an exhibition to show off what greatness looks like. And greatness is ultimately the Samoan dynasty. That's when Cody Rhodes walked in. And he said it was BS. He cursed. He used the real BS word, which, by the way, was the beginning of a lot of curses that we would get over the next couple of months. As Cody came in and he said no. He took back whatever he had said to The Rock. Whatever was whispered into Cody's ear the first time, Cody decided no. He said the Samoan dynasty can be whatever the Samoan dynasty is, but ultimately, I won the Royal Rumble. I get to decide what the main event of WrestleMania is. I don't care if you're on the board of directors. As the winner of the Royal Rumble, I'm deciding that Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns will main event WrestleMania 40. And the crowd goes wild. And The Rock is furious. And Roman Reigns is furious. And we finally get this thing that The Rock has just started to do with the fans. That, like, just strap in and go along for the ride. It went from, hey, I've got some really great things up my sleeve, I hope you like it, to, if you don't like what I'm doing, you need to shut up because I know better. So you're going to have to go along with what I think is right. It's a very subtle line between those two things. It's very thin. But on one end, it's we're all having fun. And on the other end, it's we're doing this because the boss says we have to do it. And we had drifted in to we're doing this because the boss says we have to do it. The final boss, as we would find out. But Cody then goes, and you talk about this family tree. This is no family tree. You have a bunch of lackeys, a bunch of yes men all around you. And as a matter of fact, if your grandfather Roman Reigns and your grandfather Rock, High Chief Peter Maivia, if they were here today, they'd be ashamed of all of this. They'd be ashamed of you. And The Rock slapped Cody in the face. And there was a pull apart. And then at the wrap-up part of the press conference, this is where it got great. Triple H was doing an interview with Jackie Redmond, which was interrupted when now you see Paul Heyman, The Rock, and Roman Reigns leaving together. That's when it really became clear, oh, this was always kind of something up their sleeve. They're leaving together, and as they pass by Triple H, The Rock starts telling Triple H, you need to not let him talk, you know what. I mean, he's cursing up a storm. He's dropping S-bombs. He's dropping F-bombs. But he's basically telling Triple H to control your guy or I will. And it wasn't wrestler energy. It wasn't like, and if you don't like it, I'll see you in the ring. It was, I am a member of the board of directors. You need to get your show under control because that was BS. You better not let him talk to me like that again, or you're in a lot of trouble. Not, at Backlash, I'm going to have a match with you. It was, you're going to be in a lot of trouble in the boardroom. Your job's on the line. And all of a sudden, all of these things that fans were accusing The Rock of, we're leaning in. Again, we're leaning in. We're going, okay, if that's the guy that you think I am, that's the guy that you're going to see. So after all this happens, Triple H comes on to SmackDown, and he says that, after the press conference, it appears that they took a left turn on the road to WrestleMania, and now, quote, that road is on fire, but it feels good. Triple H realizes, he said, that some people may not know their role. People may have tried to assert their authority when they don't have any. So many Easter eggs. He said, regardless of where one may sit, he is the one the answers come from. Sit at the board of directors, sit at the head of the table, I don't know. He announces that the main event of WrestleMania, the biggest WrestleMania of all time, WrestleMania 40, will, in fact, be Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. And if you don't like it, well, it doesn't matter if you don't like it. Incredible. Then, the unthinkable happens. After that, The Rock returns to SmackDown, but this time, he's got a designer vest on, similar to the short shirts that he wore during the Attitude Era. He's wearing sunglasses, expensive chains, and he stands with Roman Reigns and his family, and he declares himself a member of the bloodline. It was a SmackDown in Salt Lake City, Utah, when The Rock says that they broke the indoor attendance record for the largest gathering of trailer park trash The Rock has ever seen. He talks about all of their multiple wives, their inbred grandchildren. He asks the audience, are you sure that you want to boo The Rock? He's calling fans fatty. He's threatening to slap the herpes off of people's lips. And he explains that this is a side of The Rock that has always been there. It's just been buried. Technically, we have seen it before. This is what happened the last time fans booed The Rock. That's why that question is so crucial. When Rocky Maivia was advertised as a blue chipper and the fans just didn't take to him, he decided not to take to them. He turned on them, insulting all of them, owning his natural athletic gifts and charisma. Rocky Sucks turned Rocky Maivia into The Rock in 1998. In 2024, Rocky Sucks turned The Rock into the character that would be the final boss. When The Rock started to embrace this side of himself, it was a remarkable thing to watch. Because as much swagger as The Rock always had, when that final boss side of him came out, it was a different swagger than we had ever seen before. As much as The Rock had kind of carved his own path in this world of sports entertainment, when he started doing final boss stuff, it truly felt like he was working with no filters whatsoever. The pure id of The Rock was able to fully come out. If you look at what The Rock was doing, whether it was the language he was using, the way he was moving his body, what he was wearing, the way he was staring down at people, it was a freedom in the performance that as long as I've been watching WWE and professional wrestling, I've never seen from The Rock. The Rock in this form was able to own the fact that throughout all of his years of being a monstrous success in multiple industries, he was able to do and say things, act in ways that nobody was allowed to do. And this version of The Rock was, of course, going to take advantage of every single one of those things. And when we saw that, when fans saw The Rock, the character The Rock, morphing in to who his true self would, could, and should be, there was something captivating about it. There was something compelling about it. No matter how evil The Rock was, this was who he was destined to become. And now he was owning it. It was a different level of cool. It was a different level of confidence. It was a level that all of us would dream to one day be at, but know that we'd never quite get there because only The Rock could pull this off. One of the things that made this so special was as time went on, it was clear The Rock was not on a nostalgia run. Sure, he drew from his past as any character should, but The Rock was not in the WWE to be appreciated for what he had done before. Unlike other returns, The Rock in 2024 was in the WWE to create something new, to evolve, to answer the question, what would happen if The Rock, the character that we knew in 1998, the one that we knew in 2004, what if that character ascended to the level and earned all the power and accolades that Dwayne Johnson had? What would he do with that power? All of us grown men who grew up with The Rock became locked in because finally The Rock, the real Rock's story was continuing. At the Elimination Chamber Premium Live event, Cody Rhodes reasserted his plan to main event WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. But in the meantime, said that he challenged The Rock to a one-on-one match to pay The Rock back for the slap that he had laid on Cody in Las Vegas. The Rock, wearing an even more expensive shirt with Roman Reigns on SmackDown, said no to Cody's initial offer, but came back with a challenge to Cody and Seth Rollins to a tag team match on night one of WrestleMania against he and Roman Reigns, with implications that would lead into night two and the Cody-Roman match. He also acknowledged Roman Reigns as the tribal chief in a face-off that was fairly tense. In this moment, we saw The Rock not only as an egocentric showman, the one that we've come to know and love, but now as the calculating, shrewd negotiator that it's assumed one would have to be in order to make it in Hollywood. The Rock's presentation continued to evolve, lightning effects being added into his intro video, the red eyes of the Brahma bull glowing. The only thing that stayed the same was the goosebumps that were on The Rock's forearm. He began using social media to complement what he was doing on WWE programming, dropping 10 to 20-minute promos on his Instagram account hours before his SmackDown appearances. The Rock leaned in to all of the perceived faults, the politics, the influence that fans thought he had, and gave them the monster that they created. This incarnation of The Rock was a different type of heel. We've seen heels throughout the history of professional wrestling, but this was different. Every time The Rock showed up, fans went wild because his segments were fun. His segments were exciting. But The Rock did the job that The Rock was supposed to do, because if you watch these segments, every single one, when the music plays, fans go wild. When the jokes are made, fans are laughing. At one point, he's calling Philly garbage, and they're all cheering along with it. But every single time, by the end of the segment, they are booing The Rock, or they are chanting, "Rocky sucks." And they're not doing it because they're not happy to see The Rock. They're doing it because they are voluntarily going on this ride. They're doing it because The Rock is creating this world that we can all escape into. And whether you're a teenager that's known The Rock from being in action movies and just thinks it's fun that he's in a WWE ring, or you're a man of a certain age like myself who grew up as a teenager watching Rocky Maivia evolve into The Rock, you know, as you're watching it, you're seeing history play out. When we are watching The Rock go all in, not for an appearance, for a full story, and that's what The Rock is doing. That's what The Rock has done. Going 100% all in. As fans, when you see him going all the way into this thing, not just there for a paycheck, not just there for a quick story, not just there to do the job and to take a hike, but to really do something that people will talk about for years and years and years and years, the way he might have done in 1998. Not only are you enjoying it because of how good it is, not only are you enjoying it because there's something cool, there's something edgy, there's something so unpredictable about what's happening, but you're enjoying it because everybody watching has this conscious awareness that this was never supposed to happen and that we're witnessing history unfold. When I say he was a different type of heel, The Rock positioned himself as the boss. He would say things like that he was going to make sure Seth Rollins was not the champion. He would blur the line between being a board member and being a WWE competitor. He wasn't saying he was going to interfere in a Seth Rollins match. He was saying he was going to use his pull. Insults flew as the two teams met face to face, ending with The Rock saying Cody's birth was a mistake and Cody finally using his hand to pay The Rock back for that slap. A week later, The Rock came back in full final boss form. A new entrance theme, where the original intro remixed into his heel Hollywood rock theme that people have been waiting for. He put on a rock concert that was so fun and charismatic, he had people doubting his true nature as a heel, but followed it with a creepy, quiet promise to beat Cody Rhodes bloody with his weight belt and hand the belt to Cody's mom, who he lovingly referred to as Mama Rhodes. This was the same night he did the line from Moana, where he's saying his Maui. I'm gonna whisper in your mother's ear, what can I say besides you're welcome? which again, I mean, I talked about this on the podcast, but to me, in this moment, The Rock is using a rock concert to lure fans into this false sense of security, like everything is fine, before he lets you know the disgusting, terrible, despicable things that he's going to do to Cody Rhodes. The same way in Moana, Maui used song and dance to convince Moana that everything was okay before he locked her in a cave and stole her boat. The Rock wasn't being not quite a full heel. He was being an evolved heel. I'm going to make you guys cheer for this before I tell you that I'm going to commit crimes against this person, and doing it in front of the woman who loves him more than anybody loves anybody on this planet, his own mother. The Rock surprised Cody a week later on Raw, whispering in his ear and then leaving, saying that he was done. He was going home. We found out later that what he was whispering in his ear was, "I'm going to make you bleed tonight." And on the end of that episode of Monday Night Raw, we witnessed a beatdown like we've never seen on Raw. All of the fun, all of the hijinks, all of the charisma that were there when The Rock was doing his rock concert were gone. As The Rock pulled Cody Rhodes out into a rainy parking lot, took off his weight belt that I believe said Mama Rhodes right on it, and started whipping Cody Rhodes and whipping him bloody. It had been a long time since we had seen blood on WWE television. But The Rock put on this way of talking. "I'm going to learn you, boy. You better stay down, boy." And whipped Cody Rhodes into oblivion, to the point that it was uncomfortable to watch. You later saw footage, amazing footage, of the cameramen literally saying, "Okay, we're clear. The show's off the air. All right, clear." And The Rock saying, "Clear, whip. F that. Whip. Just because your show's over doesn't mean I'm done. Whip." And he sat on that for days before finally releasing it to the public and being like, "Look at how serious this was." As Cody lay a beaten, bloody mess, and The Rock, the final boss, lived up to his promise. We'd see another beatdown a week later, the Raw before WrestleMania in Brooklyn. And this time, we'd see the Bloodline and The Rock physically working together for the first time. Rock and Roman Reigns just beating the stuffing out of Cody Rhodes, out of Seth Rollins. And this realization that when these two are paired together, they may truly be indestructible. And finally, we get to a place where we're going into WrestleMania and everybody is along for the ride. Everybody is along for this story. Everybody knows who the good guy is. Everybody knows who the bad guy is. The Rock and Roman Reigns have made it clear that it's not just that Cody wants to take the title away from Roman Reigns. It's that Cody spoiled, ruined after winning the Royal Rumble, to them, what was the greatest potential WrestleMania match of all time. And now they have to teach him a lesson. Of course, we get to night one of WrestleMania, and it's Seth Rollins and it's Cody Rhodes versus The Rock and Roman Reigns. Now, as compelling, as captivating as a final boss had been for this entire ride, nobody quite knew what to expect from him physically. And what we got was a real performance from The Rock. He came out in this jumpsuit that I guess was somewhat reminiscent of the athletic warm-up gear that he wore in like the beginning of 1999, you know, when he was wrestling Mick Foley, but had that designer flair to it. And then ripped it off. So he was just wearing his classic Rock wrestling trunks, and the guy is just a beast. Out there looking like the Samoan Incredible Hulk. It's an amazing sight to see. I think a lot of people assume that what you'd get is Roman Reigns doing most of the work in the match, The Rock coming in with the greatest hits, and then, you know, we take it home after about 20 minutes. And instead, we got a solid 40-plus minute match where The Rock was doing a ton of stuff. Now, they figured out a way to make this a street fight, to kind of make it so that we didn't have to do holds for the entire time. But it was genius the way they did it. How would the final boss ensure that this was a street fight? How would the final boss ensure that this was no disqualification? Well, The Rock yelled at the referee halfway through the match, if you disqualify me, you're fired. Do not disqualify anybody or you're fired. I'm a member of the board. Boom. That's exactly how the final boss would make sure that he got his way through an abuse of power. And we saw a spectacular, we saw the big entrance, everything. We thought, at least there were some that thought that in terms of you never thought it would happen, big star power, nostalgia even, that night one of WrestleMania would be the night. And then night two would be more about where we're going with the future. There were some that were even worried that because The Rock, the final boss, had been such a tour de force throughout the storyline world of WWE, that night two may not be able to measure up, and those people were so wrong. Of course, The Rock ended up pinning Cody Rhodes on night one of WrestleMania. And it meant that night two of WrestleMania would be bloodline rules. This was incredible. The main event for night two of WrestleMania. People are already describing it as the greatest main event in the history of WrestleMania. And the reason is, at WrestleMania 40, not only did that main event celebrate all of WWE and the 40 years that built to this main event, but it also celebrated the stories that brought us there. It made it so if you've been watching for a year, you really get to see this, Rock Cody Rhodes thing pay off. If you've been watching for 4 months, you really get to see this final boss character pay off. But if you've been watching for years and years and years, everything that's happening has significance. It's bloodline rules, but the bloodline has done nothing but make enemies along the way. So we get the whole first half of the match is just Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes trying to take each other down. Then you get the interference begin. Jimmy Uso is the first person to interfere in that match. And boom, just as Jimmy Uso stops Cody Rhodes from beating Roman Reigns, Jey Uso's music plays. When Jimmy sees Jey coming out, Jimmy runs up to stop Jey. Jey knocks Jimmy with a spear off the ramp. And so both are taken out. Now we're back to the match. And just as Cody Rhodes is about to win again, here comes Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa stops Cody Rhodes from winning the match. And just as we think that with Solo Sikoa's help, Roman Reigns will once again be insurmountable, John Cena's music plays. And you realize everything really does count. The last time we saw John Cena, Solo Sikoa beat him. Solo Sikoa gave him 12 Samoan spikes. Solo Sikoa one-upped him. So John Cena comes out, gets his revenge, and takes out Solo Sikoa. And that's when, boom, The Rock's music hits. And if you've been watching the WWE for as long as I have, the same way, when was the last time we saw John Cena and Solo Sikoa in a ring? Solo beat John. Boom, John's going to get his revenge. When was the last time The Rock was in a ring with John Cena? Well, that was WrestleMania 29 in the Meadowlands when John Cena beat The Rock. So now not only is The Rock coming out to defend Roman Reigns, but The Rock is coming out to beat up the guy who the last time they were together, John Cena beat him. So here we go. And now The Rock and John Cena, 11 years later, as two of the biggest icons of all time, are face to face. And The Rock takes out John Cena. And just as we think it's going to be insurmountable again, here comes Seth Rollins in his Shield gear. And we know the significance of that if we've been watching for whatever it is, the last decade. Because we know that the history between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns doesn't just date back through the bloodline. It goes way back to the Shield, which will come back because if Seth Rollins gets in the ring, Roman Reigns takes out Seth Rollins and The Rock is still standing until bong, the lights go out. Everybody knows what that bong means. The lights come back on. Here's The Undertaker. And The Undertaker is staring down The Rock. And on one end, yes, you're looking at two superstars from the Attitude Era. You're looking at two superstars who knew each other in 1998, who competed against each other in that Attitude Era. Two superstars who I believe at one point were in the corporate ministry together. Two superstars who opposed each other at the same time. The Rock, with those sideburns, rolling his eyes in the back of his head, making fun of The Undertaker. They lived that life. At the same time, if you've been watching WWE as long as I have, you also know that leading up to this WrestleMania, Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes talked about, specifically Seth Rollins, talked about how important it was to get the title away from Roman Reigns. That this locker room needs to have the title away from Roman Reigns. It needs to be defended. It needs to be on television. It needs to be in matches where there isn't interference every single time somebody steps in the ring. And if you've been watching for all the years as closely as we have, who is the one wrestler more than anyone who has represented the locker room? When we talk about the locker room leader, who is that guy? It's The Undertaker, there to fight for the locker room. And he choke slams The Rock, and the lights come back on, and they're both out of the ring. And that's when, of course, Roman Reigns is ready to put Cody Rhodes out. Seth Rollins presents his back to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns gets his revenge against Seth Rollins. This was Gus Fring making a mistake. The one mistake he made on Breaking Bad is when he went to Tio Salamanca's room and allowed his emotions to get the better of him. And Tio Salamanca hit that button until they both blew up. Seth Rollins knew that Roman Reigns still harbored resentment for Seth turning on Roman to break up the Shield all those years ago. Presented his back to Roman Reigns. Roman laid him out. Cody Rhodes took advantage. Cody Rhodes is your new champion. Payoffs on payoffs on payoffs. And we are overwhelmed with what I think The Rock started. The Rock started this wave of, hey, remember all those stories? They're all still in play. Nothing's over. And in one fell swoop, all of us that have been watching for decades not only feel fulfilled in the sense that you're watching a story that makes sense week by week, but somehow, through The Rock, John Cena, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, they're able to give you this story that is your entire life. It's your entire childhood. You were there in high school watching The Rock and The Undertaker. You know who these people are. You were raised on it. And all these years later, you didn't waste your time watching. It all counted. It all mattered because it's all being played out in front of your face in 2024. And that all begins with the final boss's reign of terror in the WWE. You're talking about a story so cathartic, it left grown men in tears. It was everything. It was poetry. It was Shakespeare. It's one thing to follow a cinematic universe and see it pay off after 6-7 years of build. But to see the culmination of what we think is 4 months, then we realize is 3 years, then we realize is decades, a culmination decades in the making, And it all plays out. And what happens? There are good guys and there are bad guys. Nobody has to turn on anybody. No hijinks. At the end of the day, the good guys win because they did what was right, and the bad guys lost because they overplayed their hand. There was one more act for the final boss, and that happened the Monday after WrestleMania when Cody Rhodes is in the ring, announced as the new undisputed WWE champion, and he is holding the title that Roman Reigns held for 1,316 days, a title that it's hard to define outside of the terms of the bloodline and Roman Reigns. Cody has entered into a whole new world. The final boss and Roman Reigns built that reign to such a crescendo that Cody Rhodes walks out of WrestleMania with what has to be the highest valued world title in the history of WWE. And on Monday Night Raw, as he stands in that ring with that championship, The Rock comes out. The final boss comes out. And it's a weird energy. It's not a nice energy. It's not a comforting energy. It's not an energy that you want to be around. When he asks Cody if he can hold the belt. Now, there are some sleuths out there that realize that years and years ago, 10 years ago, when The Rock had his last WWE championship 11 years ago, Cody asked to hold The Rock's title, and that maybe this plays in, that The Rock remembers everything, and he asks to hold Cody's title. And it's just a very prison yard energy when he says, "This looks good on me, doesn't it? Just feels right, doesn't it?" He says, "Cody, I offer you congratulations. You beat my cousin Roman Reigns 1, 2, 3, and you earned that title. But the night before, I beat you 1, 2, 3. He says, "Cody, this story with you and Roman Reigns, that's over. But the story between me and you, that story's just begun. The Rock's got to go now. But when The Rock comes back, he'll be coming for you." And then he has something that he pulls out of his pocket. And he goes, "I want to give you something. Put your hand out. I want to give you something. You don't even have to open your hand because you'll know what it is. But I want you to take it." And he slips it into his hand without us knowing. And The Rock says, "Don't ever break my heart again." We don't know what it was. But what we do know is that The Rock is not done. No, the story is not over. But this chapter is. The Rock tweeted out, "The final boss is a builder, a long gamer. WrestleMania Night 2 may be in the record books, but this is only chapter 1 of Final Boss Cinema. To be continued, Final Boss." The final boss is a very special character. A bad guy being bad in the funnest of ways, but also somebody who truly takes advantage of what storytelling in modern sports entertainment can be, of what the long play can look like, of what building can actually do. As much as The Rock has done in WWE, we're at the point where he's doing things that we've never seen before. And in 3 months, he elevated a WrestleMania main event to the point that one could argue it's never been elevated. He was able to do that and still have the attention, at the end of the day, be wrapped around Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and Seth Rollins. 3 people that are going to be there going forward. 3 people that are superstars of today. And what's the most remarkable thing, and I think the thing that people might have expected the least, is that this is only chapter 1 of the final boss. And whether you're a fan of the original Rocky Maivia, whether you're a fan of the corporate champion, The Rock, the people's champion, The Rock, Hollywood Rock, the returning Rock versus John Cena Rock, the Rock that pops in just to smile and say hello Rock, the fact is that in 2024, not only do we have a new Rock, we may have the best, most compelling, most must-watch Rock that we have ever seen. When you're talking about characters and versions of The Rock, that says a lot. If we're talking about it this way for chapter 1, I truly can't wait to see what chapter 2 gives us.